So a bit of a different topic today. We're talking about what we do while running, other than running.
Uh,
So let's start with what we do when we're running on our own. We might have very different answers to this one. You want to go first?
I think we might. Sure. Yeah. And yeah, like you said, I guess other than running. So running is something I usually do when I run on my own. I do sometimes take walk breaks, but Strava doesn't have to know. Um, but it depends a lot on, I guess, my mood and the distance of the run. If it's something like a really long run, like almost a full marathon, I'll probably bring some music. And I have kind of I guess we could say a roller coaster of emotions. Sometimes, if maybe I got something going on in my life, I need to work out. Suddenly, 10K in, all the negativity comes back, and I think, hey, remember that one time that one classmate or that one teacher did that one little thing that annoyed me? And for five
20 years
kilometers,
ago?
I just, yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's so long ago. Or that annoying thing I did in high school. Oh, I was so cringe. And for 5 or 6 kilometers, I'm just so focused on that, and it gets very negative, which is not a good way to think. But anyways, after that, suddenly it all just resolves itself in my mind, and then I get what we call that runner's high. So I've noticed I do a lot of thinking, and it could be more relaxed, like, oh, I have this travel, like this trip coming up. How should I plan my travel? It could be more like that, or I have this issue. How can I deal with it? How can I get over this negativity? And just running seems to deal with a lot of that. So I think for running alone, I do a lot of thinking. It's a lot and a lot of thinking, and also listen to some music. Sometimes I daydream. A common one I've had, and I know this is, I'd say at least 80% never going to happen, but a common daydream I have while running is when I finally beat Kipchoge at an official marathon event in the last 200 meters sprint, what will I say to him as I say, like, well, good try, and I sprint the last 200 meters and beat him. What will I say in that moment? I don't know why, but that's a common one that comes into. But yes, daydreaming and lots of thinking.
That's a pretty fun daydream.
Yeah.
What kind of distances do you mostly do for your solo runs?
Lately, it's been a lot of, I guess, maybe between 6 and 10 kilometers is very common.
Hmm.
Um, and so I've been, for solo runs, if I'm going to have lunch by myself, I will kind of take a roundabout route to the restaurant. So maybe 4 or 5 kilometers there, and then do a really slow jog or walk back. So it depends on which restaurant I go to, but usually between 6 and 10 kilometers every day. Sometimes, if I have some more free time, I will bump that up and do more running. But I think an average run is about that length for me these days.
Hmm. Okay. So you don't do a lot of long runs on your own? You just go straight to races?
I guess so. And some of the races are really small, so I spend most of the time alone.
Hmm.
So I've gotten used to that. Or I'll do a solo run to a group run and then solo run back to make it my long.
Oh, okay. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Now, for my solo
Yeah.
runs, I've been trying to change it a bit because most of the time I do my long runs on the weekends, and I'll usually do at least 20K, sometimes up to 37, I think is the most I've done for long solo runs. So it's like a good 4 hours, right? Uh, Nowadays, I've been running more with groups and doing more events. And then during lunch at my work, I'll go and run. I was doing 10 kilometers, but I would have to come an hour earlier to make that time. And nowadays, I've been training with a personal trainer from 8 to 9 a.m. So during lunch, I'll just go and run instead of eating lunch and then come back and have a protein shake and some other stuff, and take a quick rest, and then start my afternoon. And so that's what I've been doing for my lunch lately. And the other day, I heard on a podcast that uh, we rely too much on technology in general, and we have kind of lost the ability to be bored. And
Mhm.
he recommends, yeah, just unplug and think about stuff at times when we probably aren't. And one of those times was running. I don't think he explicitly mentioned that, but That's one time where I used to always listen to music and nothing else. No podcast, no audiobooks, no silence, just always music. And I haven't done a solo run for a few weeks, but I'll see how I feel after running with silence for 7 kilometers is my lunch run. I've been doing that for a couple of weeks. It's fine. It's actually less hassle because I don't have to put my earphones on and then deal with all that. Like I can just go outside and start running. So it actually simplifies it. And 40 minutes goes by pretty fast without anything playing. I don't know about longer runs. Maybe I'll try one and then work my way up to longer and longer ones. We'll see. All right, the next one is what do you do when you're running with one other person?
Yes. So for me, I guess it would depend on how close I am, but usually if we're running just two of us. They're probably my friend, not a stranger. Um, I guess it's not running away. But yes, usually I just talking about daily life and stuff. Of course, then 99% I'm not listening to music because we're probably having a conversation. Um, Friend catching up, just what have you been doing lately? That's one of the good things about running. We've talked about before, it can be very social and a good way to meet friends. And in general, just side by side, talking about funny running experiences lately or just life in general and reminiscing on old runs or races or old friends we haven't seen in a while. That's usually, I'd say, what it'd be for two people runs when I'm on them.
My answer is pretty close to that. Uh, I have been running with one of my coworkers. I've
Okay.
convinced him to come out running with me uh, once or twice a week. So we've kind of started a running club, and we'll pretty much chat the whole time. Sometimes if we're having trouble keeping up with our breathing, maybe we'll take a rest for a while. But he just does one lap, so 3.5 kilometers for the whole 20 minutes that takes. We're pretty much chatting the whole time. I may be chatting more because I can keep up with the breathing better than he can. He doesn't run a whole lot. And he's pretty much the only one that I've run with regularly. Yeah, that's my short answer. If I do run with one other person, then we'll probably run slow enough that we can chat the whole time, and that's what we'll do. So it becomes very chatty.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think that's common.
How about with groups? Like if you join a club,
Great.
you
Yeah, so I guess a few episodes ago, I did mention that running clubs in Korea are kind of very rigid in some ways. I
know.
should clarify, not all of them are, but a lot of them, yes, like you run two lines directly beside each other. You always kind of have to have a buddy, and if you start to fall behind, it's just you can, oh no, the whole line is going to fall behind. It's just kind of stressful, and I don't really like that vibe as much. So there are running groups
Mm.
that don't do that as much. Or if it's an odd number of people, I go to the back and I can kind of be free. Oh,
Mm.
I'm on the right line. I'm on the left line. I'm on the right line. I'm on the left line. I'm gonna go run to the bathroom and no one's gonna know. Haha.
And then catch up.
Actually, I did that a few days ago and I didn't catch up. They took a different turn. I didn't know. I got lost and finished the run alone.
Uh,
But anyways, that's I yeah. I said I'll find them somewhere. I didn't. That was tragic. But that's not what we're talking about now. I like to kind of be a bit more free within the group. So
mm.
even though it's a group run, in moments like that, I'm a bit more introverted. So I do kind of like to have personal time, even in a social circle like that. So maybe one or two people, kind of alternating conversations, is what I like. So I'll run beside this person for a bit. We'll talk, we'll catch up. Okay, we hit our social limit. Suddenly I'm running beside someone else. Oh, we'll talk. Okay, we hit our social limit.
Mm.
Next person. In Canada, when I've done runs, that's most common, or in other countries I visit. In Korea, it's not so common during the run, unfortunately. But yes, usually I would say that's most of it, just talking with a few different people one on one rather than a big group activity. And one thing I really like about a lot of run groups in Korea is the last 1 kilometer is just all out. And I
Mm.
think if I don't have time for interval training, I'm just kind of lazy lately, just that one last 1 kilometer just to all go all out is really fun and good motivation. to race your friends and try and get there before them. So that's one thing I really like about running in a group.
You had one point that I really liked where for running clubs like this, if you're talking to someone and the conversation kind of dries up, you can just sneak your way
Yes.
over and talk to someone else. And so that's kind of what I do. And I'll try to talk to new people and then also try to talk to people that I've talked to before, even just briefly, just to catch up with them. And I find it's really easy to start conversations because you all have one very obvious common hobby, right?
Yes.
So especially if you talk to someone if they've done races recently and you can get information about the races, and yeah, it just gives you a place to start, and then you can branch out from there. And people who join these usually want to socialize.
Right.
And the one I've started joining on Sundays is actually really good because they plan it in a social way. So a lot of the warm up exercises, we're in two lines and we're facing each other. Then we have to, like, I don't know, stand on one leg and high five each other and stuff like that. And then we switch to another person. So there's like this built-in icebreaker activity. And then the actual running part is not very highly structured. Like, it's very unrigid. This last time we were running up and down hills, and you can just go in any direction you want. You're the hills, okay, just go practice running up and down. People are running all over. It made me think of a really inefficient search and rescue team. We're covering every inch of these hills, but not actually finding anybody.
That's a great image. I just by that I know exactly what you mean just by hearing that.
Yeah, it was just a lot of fun, very relaxed. And afterwards, we have brunch, which is optional. You can go do
Oh,
your thing if you want. But usually, more than half the people will stay and just keep chatting.
okay.
So, in summary, my answer is talking to as many people as possible and trying to establish long-term friendships, and possibly teaming up to go and do some races.
Oh yeah,
That's what I do
it's
for
nice.
the social ones. Okay, and last but
It's
not
nice.
least, yeah, Ollie, do you have a question?
I was gonna say I really agree that going for brunch, that's one thing I should have mentioned, is
Mm,
the after socializing. That's a huge one for me as well. And many groups in Korea, they call themselves a drinking club with a running problem, is what many people will say, because it's some of them it seems like they're just there for the socializing after. And oh right, we run a bit before that. That's also very common here.
they have a running problem, so they're not able to run in straight lines.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, so I guess we can expand this topic to what you do during running and after running.
Yeah.
Eating's a good one. And everybody's hungry after anyway.
Yeah.
Last but not least, what do you do for races?
Right.
During the race, while you're running, you're concentrating, but it's also a really long time. And for full marathons, especially, you're probably running at a pace where you can still have a conversation if you wanted to. Some people just concentrate and just run the whole way. I find that really exhausting. And I think it's also a good opportunity to socialize too. What do you do, or does it depend on the race?
I guess it depends a bit on the race. The main one for me is no music. Even in running
Mm,
clubs, I didn't mention, but sometimes I might listen to music if I just really need motivation or have it in one ear to kind of keep a rhythm going. But for an actual race, I don't think, maybe in an ultra marathon when there's no one around, I probably listen to a little bit of music, but in general, no music. I try and focus on people. And as I mentioned, I'm in a costume, so people often want to talk and take pictures, and people walking by, I like to interact. So I interact in a lot of weird ways. So sometimes I run with an instrument. It could be a flute. Could be a what else have I done? I guess a couple types of flutes.
trombone.
Uh, well, yeah, I haven't mentioned it yet, but I last week I bought a $50 plastic trumpet, and because it's plastic, it's super light, and I don't have to worry about rust. So that's what I'm practicing now to bring to my next race. Because
Or
there's
you can just not bring
on
a
the
trumpet.
on the trombone.
Is it a trumpet or a trombone?
Before I mentioned a trombone, but this time it was a trumpet.
Right.
Now I'm
Okay, go
getting
on.
confused. Yes, yeah.
Too
And
many instruments while running.
Yeah, so the flutes, they're kind of limited in the flutes I have are limited in what notes you can play, so it's hard to play a lot of songs. But the trumpet is a lot
Mm.
more, I guess, diverse in terms of the notes I can hit, so I can get a lot more different songs and pump people up. So I'm really excited to do that in a race and just yeah, make it exciting. So yeah, interacting with people, feeding off their energy. Um, because I run in costumes, people say, "Oh, you give me energy, thanks." But I said, "You just gave me twice as much energy, thank you." Lots of high fiving. Every
Mhm.
water station, I stop, and this is one big thing for me. I always say thank you at every water station. And
Mm.
I've noticed some people, especially your first couple marathons, even some people who have done many, because it's hard, they've maybe gone up too fast in the beginning, they're a bit grumpy. And these are volunteers, often like middle school, high school students who probably don't want to be standing in the cold all day giving other people water. And they're volunteering. And if you go there and say, "What do you mean you don't have water? Oh, you're so unorganized. Give this to me faster." I've seen people do that. And it's really sad
Mm.
to see. And I noticed by being a dinosaur who says, "Thank you." Oh, yeah, and gives them a high five, takes a picture. They have a positive experience and they might want to start running in the future. So that's one thing I
Mm.
make sure to always do during runs.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind
And
next time.
yeah, that's one. And one last thing in the runs is for races, I always stay till the end, like later than I should. I guess I don't pick up on the social cues that everyone's leaving. I like to stay to the end because many people do like to take pictures with the dinosaur. And once we cross the finish line, sometimes 20 or 30 minutes, I'll still be there meeting people and taking pictures, just saying hello. So that's something I
Hmm.
also very much enjoy.
Well, in China especially, sometimes people want to take photos with me just because I'm the only foreigner
Oh, yes.
or one of the few. So in that way, I have like a built-in dinosaur costume.
That's
Like
terrifying.
I guess you're in the same boat as well, just in that.
I guess so.
We actually align quite a bit on what we do during races. I also don't listen to anything. Mm, I did once for the Singapore Marathon, which was a really hard one. I kind of needed that just to push me through. I
Yes.
didn't feel like talking to anyone. It was just really hard and not fun. I just wanted to finish it. Um, but other than that, yeah, I wouldn't even bring my earphones with me. And during the Seoul Marathon, actually, I was chatting with the Ethiopian barefoot runner. Well, I'm sure he's not the only one, but he was an Ethiopian who was a barefoot runner. And every once in a while, he wanted to put his earphones in and just concentrate on running for a while. So I was like, sure. We chatted for like 20, probably, yeah, probably about half the race. So every time he wanted to do that, then I was just saying, yeah, sure, go for it. And I don't mind running in silence. Even just having a conversation partner intermittently is already a big step up. And I found a lot of the barefoot runners, like people who wear no shoes at all, will often approach me just because I'm wearing the barefoot shoes, and it's the closest thing that is to them. Everyone else thinks they're weird, but I kind of get it. And and yeah, that's usually how we'll start a conversation. Or if someone's in costume, or yeah, sometimes if someone's just like pretty close pace with me, I might just start a conversation with them just for something to do. And then I'll also interact a lot with the crowd, like the people who come out there to cheer us on, like give them high fives or accept high fives from them. Yes, we high five each other. Yeah, and just kind
Yeah.
of enjoy having the crowd there and interacting with them as much as possible, and trying to make jokes, trying to make them laugh. This last half marathon I did, there were two people who were just kind of standing off to the side. I don't know if they were volunteers or what. I think one of them might have been holding a sign saying "Go this way." They had a loudspeaker that was saying, "If you're doing the race, keep going straight." Just repeating that one sentence over and over again. So as I was running by, it plays like 6 times. And I asked the people, "What? No English?" It's only a Mandarin, right? So if I don't know English, then how am I supposed to know where to go? There were maybe a dozen foreigners in that one. It was pretty obvious from the way it was set up,
Oh, yeah.
but they got a big kick out of that, especially because I asked it in Mandarin, so I obviously didn't need it in English.
Uh-huh.
But still, I called them out. And
Yeah.
yeah, just stuff like that. Like the volunteers kind of have the hardest job, like you
Yes.
mentioned, because at least we have a goal, right? And we're busy the whole time. A lot of them just stand there and they don't even have a job sometimes. Like at least filling water, the time will go a lot faster. But some of them are just there holding like, an arrow or something like that for like 8 hours. Yeah, it's torture. Yeah, so I'll try to cheer them up whenever possible and ask them if they want to switch or something like that. That's a pretty easy joke that they don't usually expect and they usually
Yeah.
appreciate.
I think those small jokes are, I don't think I mentioned too much of them, but that's the highlight for me. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes because you meet so many people during the run, you make the same joke 20 times, and then you make a new joke and you think, oh, I'm a genius. That was so funny. I just made a new joke after 20 times of saying the same joke and um, things like that. Like I don't know what it's called in English. In Korean, they call it pas. It's like if your muscles are getting sore, you like spray this thing on your skin and it kind of helps you kind of push to the end. I don't
Oh,
know what it is in English exactly, but that's common in I guess places like, oh, my hamstring, please spray my hamstring. It smells terrible.
and
And
it just
it,
burns your eyes and the
yes,
eyes of everyone else running
exactly.
past. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's made by Tiger Balm.
Yeah.
At least, you
Okay,
can. Yeah, it smells a lot like Tiger Balm.
great. And one thing I really, really like to do that I recently started in the past year is because I'm in a dinosaur costume, I have a tail. And people always say, do you need this? Do you need this? And every time I say, please, right here, right here, right here. And I hold up my tail. And obviously, my tail is not sore. But sometimes, just in the moment,
That is pretty
everyone's
funny.
so busy and like, oh, someone needs this,
Mm.
someone needs this. And they don't realize at first, it's okay, where do you, oh, right here. And then they spray it. And as they're spraying, they're like, wait, huh?
That's not
And
right.
that moment, I love it. Yeah, that's something I live for. That's something I enjoy to do.
Okay, there you have it, folks. That's what we do when we're running. Other than running, we have fun.
Yes, lots and lots of fun. And sometimes silence.
Lots of silence, but also sometimes fun.
Fun silence.